Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Helt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Adam Nash, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Daffy. Welcome, Adam.
Gary, great to be here.
So explain to us what Daffy is and kind of what your thoughts were behind it when you started it up.
Sure. Daffy actually stands for the Donor Advised Fund for You. And it's a very simple application and platform to pull all your charitable giving into one place, right? You can put money aside every week, every month. The money is invested tax-free. You get an immediate tax deduction for making a charitable contribution. And then anytime you want to give some of that money to an operating charity, it's just a few taps on your phone and you can give it. And it's a really wonderful product and service. I wish I could tell you that I came up with it. But the truth is, donor advised funds have been around for decades, almost 100 years. But it turns out that if you don't have a high-end accountant, financial advisor, wealth manager, you may not have heard of it. And so when my co-founder and I were talking about different products that we could build, things that would make a difference, and this is back during the pandemic, right, in 2020, we were really struck by the fact that giving is such an important part of so many people's lives, right? You know, individuals give, small businesses give, big corporations give. Actually, the data says about 60 million American households give to charity every year. And yet this amazing product, this amazing ability, that this donor advised fund is something that maybe a few percentage points of people have. And we said, wait, why? We've had all this innovation last 10 and 15 years in financial services. We have apps that help people save better, spend better, invest better. Where are the services that help people give better? And that's really where Daffy came from. And so we raised some money in 2020 and launched the product and the service about a year later. And we're just about to celebrate our third birthday.
Oh, that's great. In going through into this, I mean, yes, donor advised funds have been around forever. And lots of times it seems like the ultra wealthy are the ones that are using them more. Why do you think that is? And how are you guys helping overcome that stigma?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons for that. The first is for better or for worse, in the last 10, 15 years, there's been this incredible fascination with billionaires, millionaires and billionaires, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so I think it leads people to believe that only, the ultra wealthy are doing this. I mean, the right. Data doesn't support that, but it turns out that it's very easy to fixate on billionaires these days. And they're not making it hard because they keep doing interesting things. Interesting. It's doing a lot of work there. Right. But the second reason actually is we think there's a problem with the business model in the existing industry. And I spent a lot of my time, a lot of different companies and products. It's amazing how much the business model of a product or service, a company, ends up being its destiny at scale. And I see this in technology in my career all the time. But it turns out that modern donor advised funds have mostly borrowed their business model from the investments industry. Right? Mm-hmm. They charge a percentage of the assets under management. And I'm sure that makes sense to a Fidelity, a Schwab, and a Vanguard. But the end result is if you make money off a percentage of assets, what do? You end up chasing the biggest accounts and the most assets. And so you focus on the millionaires and billionaires and not those 60 million households that give to charity every year. And so the big change we made with Daffy, by the way, is that we have a different business model. We actually don't charge a percentage of assets. We're a flat fee, membership fee. We actually looked at nonprofits and how they make money. And some of our favorite nonprofits actually work off membership. And so Daffy, of course, is free to get started. Most of our members pay $3 a month. We have a family plan at $5 a month. And then at the high end, if you want to contribute unlimited amounts to your donor advised fund, we charge $20 a month. And people in the industry think we're a little crazy for charging so little. It turns out
Right.
in the investment industry, they notice when they think prices are too low. But from our perspective, this is what's necessary to get a platform that's actually focused on the real goal, which is to help people give. I mean, our mission is to help people be more generous more often.
Mhm.
And we think aligning the business model with that is very important.
Now, because you are trying to make this available for everybody,
Mhm.
from a client size and how much they put into Daffy, what's your minimum?
Oh, well, this is one of the big surprises when we launched. We were very proud when we launched to have extremely low minimums. You can get started by putting aside $10 a week, right?
Right.
We're actually free under $100 because we actually want to encourage people to give. But you have to have some humility when you launch new products and platforms. It's always surprising what customers actually do with it.
Right.
And so we just put out our data earlier this year on 2023, but we've seen an incredible variety in accounts, right? So we have a lot of accounts that are a few $100s. People give to a handful of charities every year. We have accounts that are in the 5 and 6 figures where people actually make it their center of their giving and supporting organizations they support every year, like their church or their synagogue, the local community projects, maybe their alma mater or their kid's school. And then now we're seeing a lot of accounts that are actually in the 7 and 8 figures. A lot of contributions, a lot of stock contributions, ETFs, mutual funds, even crypto has been very big.
Hmm.
And so it's been really exciting just to see the breadth. I mean, I think it validates our original hypothesis that actually giving is not something exclusive to the wealthy. It's also not something exclusive to people who just give a little bit of money to their kid's school or their church, but actually something very broad. It turns out that most Americans believe that giving is something that you should do, but it's not all for you, right?
Right.
That it's important to give back.
Right. So, I mean, what you guys are doing is obviously is trying to make it easy to give. And going through that process, how difficult is it for someone to get started with you guys?
Well, it should be very easy. That's what we've aimed for it. And actually,
Right.
most people are almost shocked to find out, when we launched 3 years ago, we were the first fully functional donor advised fund in the Apple App Store, where you could
Oh,
just, download an app on your phone, tap, 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 and within minutes be started with an account that you could give to almost any charity in the United States. And I know that sounds simple. It's kind of amazing. We're in 2024 talking about
right.
that. But it turns out that the industry had not invested in technology. And of course, for my co-founder and I, that's where we come from. So it was a little easier to do that. But in terms of getting started, we try to make it incredibly easy, right? If you want to just fund your account with your credit card or debit card, we even take Apple Pay. You can link your bank account and move money over once or all at once. A lot of people with more assets contribute, like I said, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, even crypto. There are huge tax advantages, of course, to donating to charity using things like stock investments, ETFs, mutual funds, because you never pay the capital gains when you
Right.
do that. And that's very hard to do because most charities don't take stock,
Right.
right? Your local church or synagogue, your kid's school may not be set up to take a mutual fund that you've held for 20 years. But the donor advised fund can,
Right.
Daffy can.
Right.
And so we try to make it incredibly easy for people to put money aside for charity. Because as you said, the research shows that once you put money aside for a purpose, for a cause, you tend to do more of it, right? There's a reason why people save more for retirement with IRAs and 401ks than they would otherwise. The same thing applies to donor advised funds. When people put money aside for charity, they watch that money grow. It makes it a little easier for them to give when they're inspired.
Right. Now, do you guys do the research if they want to give to whatever ABC charity? Do you guys, before you send the money to ABC charity, do you verify that they are a qualified charity so the deduction is clean?
That's right. I mean, it turns out, donor advised funds are regulated. And so one of our requirements is we can only send money to properly registered charities. So we use a combination of public data, right? The IRS puts out information. Some states put out information about which charities are in good standing.
Right.
And then, of course, there's third-party services. We actually have a page on our site for every charity, pretty much in the US that we know about from these sources. And
Mhm.
we include those ratings and reviews so that people can figure out which charities they want to give their money to. Just one comment, though, is that the great thing about the donor advised fund is you never have to worry about that tax deduction. You actually get the tax deduction when you put the money into the Daffy account, not when it goes to the charity.
Right.
And so one of our most popular features is that if you are caught in a moment and you know that you want to put some money aside for charity, maybe it's for tax purposes, maybe it's towards the end of the year, or
Right.
maybe it's just that you had a good month and now's a good time to put some money aside. We actually don't make you wait until February 15th to get that tax receipt. One of the features people love about Daffy is they can get their tax receipts any time of the year, up to date, all in one place. There's a lot of people who scramble at the end of the
Oh
year,
yeah.
right? It's actually, we've heard two stories. If you're of a certain age, you probably have a folder on your desk where you print out the receipts and go to it. That's what I do. If you're a little bit younger, you probably have a Gmail search that you do at the end of the year to try and find all your donation receipts.
Right.
It turns out it's fantastic to just have one place where all your giving is. Makes it easy to see what did you give to that organization last year? Such an easy
Right.
question. And yet I can't tell you the stress and strain that people have chasing down that answer. And so the great thing about Daffy is it makes it very easy to do
Yeah.
your giving.
I mean, from the CPA side of things, I would love for a lot of my clients to have to go to one place to get, okay, this is truly how much, as compared to the 50 or 60 receipts that they're bringing in. Oh, I forgot one more. So yeah, that would definitely make it easy, on my side of things. Um, in going through, your next stages of this, what do you see the future of Daffy?
Well, we've not been sleeping on the opportunity. It's been a whirlwind since we launched
Sure.
3 years ago. Um, Part of our focus has just been to bring innovation to the category, right? Like I said, it turns out there are amazing features in almost all the technology products that we use, and many of them haven't made their way to giving, to charity. I'll give you an example. For most people, giving is not just something they do themselves, right? It's something they do with family. A lot of the organizations are tied, not just one generation either, multiple generations. I mean, what technology service doesn't have a family plan now?
Right.
Right? Like I have teenagers at home. Let me tell you, the number of Amazon teen requests, iTunes requests, Xbox requests. I'm
Right.
getting requests, Netflix, everything.
Hmm.
And yet you open up a donor advised fund in almost every other institution, and it's like, do you want an individual account, a joint account, a trust account? With Daffy, we added actually the ability so you can be the organizer on a fund, you and your spouse, but you can add up to 24 family members to your account. And they don't have control, but it's a
Right.
chance for them to see what you're donating to, and they can make recommendations of organizations to give to. I mean, I can't tell you how meaningful it is. I have my 4 children on the plan. I had my 17-year-old come to me and say, "Hey, I saw that we made a donation to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. How long have we been supporting them? I love that. We haven't been there in a couple of years. We should go." It's a chance for you to talk with your family about why you give and have them actually have influence and learn about giving, which a lot of parents and grandparents care deeply about.
Right.
Once again, I'm proud of that innovation, but it was a matter of taking a feature like family plans and bringing it to the space. So innovation is a big piece of that. We just launched Daffy campaigns last year, so now anyone with a donor advised fund can run a matching campaign for up to 6 charities that they support. And it's amazing. Every time someone gives $100, the extra $100 comes out of your account. And people love having a fun way to give. I mean, internet campaigns have been around for decades,
Sure.
and yet no donor advised fund does this. So I think innovation is a big piece of what we're doing. But the real long-term vision just surrounds the fact that it's the question you asked a little earlier, which is that the country really has tens of millions of people who care about giving, who give every year, but they struggle to find the almost 2 million charities out there. And by the way, those charities struggle to find people. not just for donations, not just for funding, people for their boards, volunteers, they throw events. And we really see building out Daffy as a platform. Kind of like, I was the head of product at LinkedIn through the IPO, VP of product. That's a phenomenal platform now that helps people pull together their careers and their professional journeys.
Right.
I would love to see Daffy grow into something like that for people around charity, around giving, as people give through most of their lives.
Yeah. I like, the part about Daffy I like a lot is because, again, with the young family members, they can, put a couple bucks a week or whatever into the fund, and then that kind of saves it up for them. Then they can say, hey, this is what I want to give to this charity. So it's not, because your traditional donor advised fund, it's okay, here's 20 grand that I'm going to give over the next 2 years or whatever. You're really making this into part of their daily, weekly lives of the giving and kind of keeping it to the forefront instead of it being oh, I forgot about it type thing.
Well, listen, giving really involves two hard problems, right? My background is more in engineering and design and product. And so I always think about it in fundamentals. When you're giving, you have to solve this problem of how much can I afford to give?
Right.
And who do I give the money to? Either one of those problems would be a hard one. Done together, that's why it's so hard. And by the way, this is why organizations have to take such an aggressive approach trying to fundraise, because it's almost like sales. They have to get you through that mess
Right.
to get you to open up your checkbook and actually give. One of the things that our members just love about the service is that if you've been putting money aside, $10 a week, 25, or maybe you had a windfall, right?
Right.
Maybe your business had a good month. We have a lot of members who are in technology. Maybe your stock vested and you have some extra money and or you want to donate stock, or maybe you are running a small business and you just had a really good quarter. But that ability to fund multiple years of giving is also exciting. But really, no matter which group you're in, the thing that is most powerful is just having it on your phone. Like that
Yeah.
ability, if you're at an event, you're talking to a friend, someone tells you about a cause you believe in, something happens in the world you want to help with. The ability to pull your phone out of your pocket, tap, 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 and know that you have the money, right? This isn't going to hurt your budget.
Right.
It's not, you don't have to worry about other bills you have. You've put this money aside. And so just the power to give when you want to give, it's not just a financial task for a lot of people. It's emotionally rewarding.
Right. Right. I mean, this is a great thing that you've done, because like I said, I think it's in lots of ways it makes giving more affordable. And I think that that's something important. I think that lots of times people can give through work because it's an automatic withdrawal out of their account, but lots of times they're limited in who they're able to give that money to. They have to be on an approved list and things like that. So that's what's nice about this, because people can give, weekly or out of their paycheck, type thing, but it's, something where they have more access to more charities to be able to give to. So I think that part's great. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, you've already said from the tax benefit side, it's the money that we put into the donor advised fund that is the deduction for us. So what happens with our money that's in there and it's earning income? Do we have to pay tax on those earnings? What happens with that?
No, it's completely tax free. So Daffy itself is a charity. It's a 501c3 registered with the IRS. And so it's tax exempt. And so when you put money or you contribute stock, or like I said, ETFs or mutual funds, et cetera, you're making effectively a donation to Daffy. And so that's why you get the charitable deduction up front, right? And then the money, Daffy invests it. And we have a range of portfolios to choose from pre-built. Or if you have a larger account, you can actually recommend a custom portfolio from it. We have over 460 low-cost ETFs. But that money is invested tax-free because Daffy is the one investing it. And Daffy is a is a charity, is a nonprofit. And so that's really one of the fantastic benefits, is that you don't have to worry about this idea that your money is sitting idle, right? When,
Mm.
as you're trying to figure out which charities to give to, or maybe you give to an organization every year. I mean, you could write one check to a charity in one year, but actually, most organizations, that isn't as good as it sounds, right? They have operations that they have to fund every year. They much prefer recurring donations, consistent donations
Right.
from people who support them. And so the ability to fund the account, have the money invested tax-free so that it grows, means that every year you have more money, hopefully, to give to charity. And the portfolios really range. We offer low risk conservative portfolios of cash or inflation protected bonds. We have low cost index fund portfolios with funds from Vanguard, or if you prefer ESG, we have BlackRock funds. We even have crypto diversified funds with the new ETFs, or even pure crypto with Coinbase. But whatever your choice is, everyone's philosophy on this is different.
Right.
Some people, their plan is to put money aside regularly, and then in years have a larger pool of funds that they can give to organizations. For others, it's just important that they give to the same 3 to 5 charities every year, and they set up recurring donations, so it's just all automatic. But whatever your giving path, we try to make sure that there's no objection to putting the money aside for charity. Actually, it turns out financially to be incredibly efficient because, for example, like I mentioned, if you were lucky enough to invest in a Vanguard index fund 20 years ago, or maybe you bought some NVIDIA stock a few years ago. If you sell it, you're going to have to pay a lot in taxes, especially if you live in a high tax state like, California or New York. Whereas donating those shares means that, one, you get the full value of that charitable deduction. And by the way, that's against income. Those are
Right.
the highest rates.
Right.
And then, of course, you never pay the capital gains taxes. And so it's really phenomenal. I think once people learn that, they go, oh, I get it. This is a great way. This is why the donor advised fund is such a great idea, because even though most charities don't take investments as donations, the donor advised fund does.
Yeah.
And then the real eye opener, of course, it tends to be in the small business world. In the business world, you realize that, oh, many small businesses end up supporting local charities, but there's no reason a small business can't have a donor advised fund,
Right.
right? And put money aside so that they're giving more effectively.
Yeah, I think I just want to, you know, emphasize one of the things that you said was about that, Daffy will accept the appreciated stocks or mutual funds and things like that, because there are many charities that do not take that because they don't have the wherewithal to be able to handle it. So because of that, I think that that's another, especially if you're dealing with a smaller charity, because they don't have the infrastructure or anything else to be able to do that. So I think that that's something that's important, that you can donate that stock or mutual fund or ETF, whatever it is, to Daffy. Daffy then can sell it, do whatever it needs to do to have the available cash to then be able to donate to who you want to donate to.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's a funny story, but we were talking about the original launch. In the first few days, one of our first big donations on the platform was someone from New York wanted to give a Bitcoin to his congregation. And of course, they're not set up to take Bitcoin.
Right.
Very few charities are, right?
Mhm.
There's almost 2 million charities in the US. Maybe a couple thousand might be set up to do that.
Right.
And he said, "Oh, I read your press release. I get it. I give you the Bitcoin and you get the money to the charity." And in some ways, it really is that simple. And it makes it easier for planning, right? From a time perspective, right? Sometimes, like I said, it could be towards the end of the year. You're thinking about taxes.
Right.
Putting money aside for charity can be the right thing to do, but it could be hard to figure out who to give that money to in just a matter of days or weeks.
Right.
The donor advised fund buys you more time. But at the same time, I think for other people, the real benefit of it is just being more intentional. I mean, you're a CPA, so you know this, but people aren't very good at budgeting in
No.
general. This is why the research, the reason a lot of people save for retirement is not because they care more about planning for retirement, but it's because the 401k, the IRA makes it easy to have that money come out of your paycheck and have that money be invested properly. In
Right.
some ways, the donor advised fund is just like that, but for charity instead of for retirement.
Right. Right. Adam, what have I not asked you that you wish I had?
What's the best way to get started?
Well, that's the follow-up question here is how can people reach out to you? Where can they find your platform to be able to start giving?
Oh, that's flattering. And I'm happy, of course, you can go to daffy.org and get started. But usually when people ask me about giving, it's actually a little bit more general, how to get started. And what I tell them is the most important thing I truly believe is to just set a goal for your giving. It can be as easy as looking at what you gave last year or the year before, or just going through the handful of organizations that you care about and asking the question, how much do you give to them each year, and adding that up. But once you have a goal for your giving, then all of a sudden it becomes fairly easy, right? Like I said, you can put aside that money once, you could do it every month or every week. And what we find is that when you set a goal, the research indicates that people who set a goal for their giving, automate it, give 32% more
Hmm.
to charity than people who don't. And so for us, that's the most important thing, is to get started. Now, of course, at Daffy, we've built the product that way. So if you
Right.
download our app and our service, one of the first questions we'll ask you is, what is your goal for giving? And granted, you might not have it, you can skip that step. But for a lot of people, we track it like Apple Health. If you're the type of person who cares about getting 10,000 steps in, or running 10 miles a week, or hitting the gym 3 times a week, etc., we try to make the product fun and reward people. I mean, if we have apps that reward you with confetti when you buy
Right.
stock, I'm not even going to get into, the rewards for crypto, etc.
Right.
We tried to make giving feel great as well. And so, yes, I think that Daffy obviously is maybe the easiest way to get started.
Sure.
But my general recommendation for giving is just to make it intentional. For most people, they feel bad if they don't have the money in pocket to give to an organization they support every year, right?
Right.
They don't want to say, oh, I can't do that this year. And a lot of having a platform, an app like Daffy is just making it so that it's easy to
Right.
actually have this important part of your life taken care of.
Right. Great. So give us that website again.
Okay, so getting started with Daffy is very easy, of course. You can just go to daffy.org, or you can actually go to the App Store and just type in Daffy. It'll show up under Daffy. Our full name is the Daffy Charitable Fund. If you already have a donor advised fund, it's incredibly easy to move money over, right? You can just go into your existing donor advised fund, and we will show up as one of the nonprofits you can make a grant to.
No,
And so you can open up an account, you can fund it. Like I said, it's very easy to put in a few $100s to get started. You can put in as little as $10 a week to get started. Or if you want to donate stock or mutual fund, et cetera, we make that all easy to do. But what I encourage everyone to do is download the app, put a little bit of money in, use it to give to a charity you care about. You'll be blown away how easy it is. And then, the tax benefits and all the other financial benefits from it largely sell themselves. But I think once you use the product, you realize, oh, why doesn't everything work this way? And of course, that's what every technologist wants to hear.
sure. Sure. Great. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you giving us, another way to be able to give, because I think it's important for everybody to look and be able to give, because there's definitely a lot of unfortunate people and a lot of great causes that are out there. So I really appreciate you guys doing this.
Yeah, well, listen, it feels very good. I know the whole team really appreciates the opportunity to work on something that matters to people. I mean, the idea of putting money aside for charity, for tithing, this basic idea that it's not all for you is thousands of years old, if not older.
Right.
And so it's somewhat fun to take that and put that in a 21st century wrapper and make it just easy for everyone to get started.
Right. Right. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me on.
Sure. Hey, this week our guest was Adam Nash, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Daffy. I will see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.